Welcome to The Stronger Thread, where we weave together stories of resilience, hope, and the unbreakable bond of sisterhood.
We're your favorite sister duo, tackling life's curveballs one laugh at a time, complete with a side of pink ribbons and warrior spirit.
We've both danced with breast cancer, and let's not forget our stint with thyroid cancer and all the other adventures life has thrown our way.
Each episode will share our crazy stories, some invaluable tips, and of course, a lot of laughs as we navigate the ups and downs of life before and after cancer.
So, whether you're facing a tough diagnosis or just feel like you're hanging by a thread and need a reminder that you've got the strength to overcome anything, we want you to know that you're not alone. Together, we'll discover that even the thinnest thread can be your strongest lifeline.
Join us as we connect, uplift, and inspire one another, reminding everyone that there's strength in vulnerability and power in shared stories. So grab a cup of coffee,
Or tea.
settle in, and let's dive into the threads that connect us all. Hey, everybody, welcome back to The Stronger Thread.
I'm Carly.
And I'm Cae'ly.
And we're here with episode 2 of The Stronger Thread, where today I think we're going to focus on a little bit more of who we were before cancer. So last time we talked about kind of our journeys that we've been on, our cancer diagnosis, multiple diagnosis, should I say, Cae'ly, right? So today we're going to go back to the roots a little bit and talk about like our life before cancer and what our focuses were. So we can take you on a full journey of, just our stories. So Cae'ly, you want to take us off on kind of who you are and a little bit of your backstory?
Sure. So I'm Cae'ly Romero. I'm 34 years old, and I am the mother of two beautiful children, Clover, age 10, and Rowan, age 8. I've been married to my husband Randy for a little over a decade now. We'll make 11 years in
Oh, look at that. You do know the number.
June. Oh, I do know the number. I had to think about it. Yeah, in June we'll make 11 years. And then we have been together for a little over 15 years dating wise.
Long time.
High school sweethearts, shabby bees. Um, Background of me, I was in a bunch of different sports when I was younger. Soccer and swim team had my heart.
I forgot you were a swim team.
Yeah, that was a fun time. I'm actually oddly a good swimmer, even though I was terrible. I never won a single race.
It was cool to go watch, though. It was really cool to go
They were
watch.
so fun. Oh, especially the swimming pools that were treated right before we would go compete. My eyes hurt so bad, and I would always lose my contacts because the chlorine was severe. The fumes. Let's see. I was in drama. I was in band for like a hot minute, not long, like just the 6th grade, and then it never went past. I played the trumpet for a year, and that was it. And then I did the whole band camp thing. That was cool. I was on the chess club. I was in creative writing, and then I was in what was called Diversity Club, which was basically everybody celebrating our uniqueness. And then I met my now husband, and then we dated, and he went away to the military, and I went to college, and then we got married whenever he came back, and had two beautiful babies, and I taught for like 9 years, and now
What
here
made you
we
want
are
to get into teaching after all of that?
Oh wow.
Because I think I wanted to be a teacher as little as can be, but now I look back and I'm like, oh gosh, you can't pay me enough to be a teacher.
No, you cannot pay me enough to be a teacher anymore. So I actually wanted to be a veterinarian when I was a kid. I loved animals, and I thought I knew everything. Actually, Clover was me as a kid. You know, like, trust me, I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna be a veterinarian. Like, I remember at Granny's, a dog got hurt once, and I wanted to go help the dog, but it was like way too past redemption. And I was like, no, I have a book on how to take care of animals. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. And I was like 8. I didn't know what I was doing. But yeah, I loved animals, but whenever I learned that you have to put some of them down, it kind of ruined it for
Yeah.
me. And so now I don't want to be a veterinarian. Although I help a lot with your practice.
Yep.
Um, I can do everything but say goodbye to them because I can't do that. I'm not good at that.
That is probably the toughest job
I
for
know.
sure.
And you have to have a strong heart and a lot of compassion because I know I had to put my own Sammy down because he had cancer
Yeah.
between my two cancers.
Yep.
He survived a long time. He made it through the wilderness, but he needed a break, poor baby. But he was more on the coolest dog in the world another time, but that's best dog on the planet.
No.
I got into teaching because our cousin Jennifer, she was my English teacher when I was a freshman in high school, and she was just the coolest teacher I have ever had the pleasure of experiencing. She taught English, right? And
Yeah.
so she would take all these old and dusty boring stories and just convince you that the tea was there. It was the greatest book in the world or the greatest short story in the world. Oh my God, the drama. She would bring the interesting parts to life that are really hard, especially Shakespeare.
Yeah.
His language is so beyond how we speak today. So it's really hard to pick up on the sass or the drama or anything. And she would call him out and be like, "Oh, just call him that." And we're like, "What did he do? He bit his thumb at him. That's a bad thing." And it was so fun to experience really difficult readings with her because she made it fun. And it was just so addictive to want to take more of her classes. So I know when I was a senior in high school, I intentionally took an extra class that wasn't even necessary to graduate. And I ended up, instead of just staying half a day and then leaving, because I was in advanced everything, so I really didn't need the whole senior year.
Yeah.
I intentionally took her class, which made me stay there longer just because she was so fun and we did so many fun things. Um, but she, when I was a senior, also had her first child, Holden, and
Mhm.
she went on maternity leave. And she, by this point, she had been teaching for a while. She stocked up on all of her sick days and all of her extra days. So she took a good half of the school year off to enjoy being mom, and which
Yeah.
is unheard of in American maternity leave. So she did it right. She was smart. She played the long game. And so that gave me the opportunity as her student assistant for my senior year, because as a senior, you really don't need all those classes. So
Yeah.
they make stuff up like student teacher or whatever. Um, so I got to actually teach the class, and the substitute was there, but he kind of let me take the reins because I had taken the class before. And she left so many good notes. Like she had a
No.
binder with note after note. If they ask this question, this is the response to it. Show this on this time. Here's the presentation for it. Here are the worksheets. Here's the test. Here's the answer. Like she covered all her bases. So I got bit by the teacher bug. And so
Yes.
I was like, you know what? This is what I want to do. I want to teach. This is super fun. That was really cool to see how when the kids get it, it's such an it's a rush whenever they finally get it. And I was
Yeah.
a kid myself when I was doing this, and I was like, this is addictive. I want to teach. So I went and got my degree, and I majored in English for secondary education, and I had a minor in public speaking. And it was like speech and drama. It was kind of like a little combo thing.
Yeah.
So I went back to my high school and got hired on. And the principal at the time was actually one of my other freshman teachers. And she was so excited that I had came back. I didn't even apply for any other school because that's the only school I wanted to teach at. And I spent 9 years teaching at my alma mater. And
That's pretty cool.
it was great. It was the best time ever. I had so much fun, and I got to coach soccer, and I was the sponsor for the chess club. I was the coach for the speech and debate team, or it was the debate team. It wasn't speech and debate. It was
Yeah.
just debate. Or it was Quiz Bowl. It was Quiz Bowl. I'm sorry. It wasn't most it's Quiz Bowl where we come from. And then I was the drama teacher for a while. So we put on plays. We had a play that never made it because COVID hit the week before the show was supposed to come out. And so we actually
So you guys
went in.
practiced the whole time.
We
And
really
then,
did. The entire time schools were shut down, we would meet
oh,
online, and like you would think kids wouldn't show up for schoolwork when they obviously didn't have to. They signed on every night. Like we met every night, and
that's
these
pretty
were,
cool.
it was so great because like you could tell they were so excited because they got social interaction. We did the entire play. At the time we were done with practicing, none of us were looking at scripts anymore. We had everything memorized. And there was no point in practicing, and I didn't have the heart to tell them, like, this play's not going to happen. But we
Yeah.
showed up anyway, and they were just so excited to do schoolwork because they just needed some people to hear them. And then we would visit for a little bit to check on them emotionally and everything. And it was such a wonderful experience.
It's pretty cool. That's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
it was great. I was addicted to teaching. It was super fun, and I had so many wonderful babies that grew up to become just phenomenal people. I have a student, he's one of the top real estate agents right now. I have another student who's a semi-big author at this point.
Nice.
I buy all her books.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, yes. But they have so many great kids, and they do wonderful things, and I run into them, and I got to be careful at Walmart. I'm a chameleon at this point because if you see me on the streets, I look very different than whenever I was in the classroom, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to be
Yeah.
able to blend in to society. So I look like a hot mess at school, and that way whenever I go out in public and I'd look cute, you wouldn't be able to tell that. You'd be like, who's that? So
That's
it
funny.
works. You had to have an your
Alter
ulterior
ego.
persona.
Yeah. Yep. That's awesome. That's
Oh
awesome.
yeah. Well, what about you? What's some of your backstory? People need to know who you are.
Yeah. So, I mean, same thing. We grew up in a pretty large household. There was 5 of us total. I was the middle child. Cae'ly was right under me. Interesting
And we're
enough,
the only girls.
we were the only girls, 3 boys and 2 girls. But interesting enough, we're not best friends growing up. And I think you were saying earlier, Cae'ly, that I think it gives you hope with your own kids because you look at your kids and how they respond to each other, and you're like, how are they fighting? Why don't they love each other? And I look back at us, and you're like, okay, yep, that makes sense.
Oh
We didn't love each other at that stage, but
no,
now,
we squared up regularly.
yeah, interesting stories, lots of them, lots of them. But now we're like best friends. You're my person. Anytime I need something, you're always there. And I feel like you can read my mind sometimes. I'm like, what was that again? And you're like, oh, this. Yeah, exactly.
You remember that guy that did the thing? 1 minute, I got you.
That thing. Yeah. That thing.
The thing. I got you.
So, I think growing up in such a large household, we had to learn to kind of just adapt. And, it was never a quiet moment in our house. There was always something going on. And still, even, I live in Florida now, but even going back home to South Louisiana, where you guys are, there's never a dull moment. The house is still filled. And now we have so many, we have kids. So our parents have 10 grandkids, one any day now. Number 11 should be here. We're so excited.
I can't wait.
Yeah, we're really excited. So, I think that in and of itself has given us a really good foundation to want to help other people, want to be a part of other people's journeys. And, so growing up, I was in sports just like Cae'ly. We were a big sports household, and we loved to play. My favorites were soccer and softball. I have quite a few of those journeys that have, I look back on and I'm like, okay, that helped me deal with adversity even when I was 12 years old. So looking back at like your entire life, you see how you've gotten to be this person. So after high school, I went on to go to UL for social work. I always loved psychology, sociology, and figuring out how other people function and why they function the way they do. So my goal was to be a social worker. And after doing a couple internships in in that field. I quickly found out that that was not for me. I did not want to get in other people's marriages. I did a couple stints with AA recovery, and that was very difficult for me to look at the journey that these people had gone through, and how to help them overcome so much adversity. It was very emotionally tolling for me, and it just wasn't the right field. So I started right after college in the veterinary field as a practice manager, and I quickly fell in love with the veterinary field. Never did I want to be a veterinarian, but I loved the business side of veterinary medicine. And so I stuck with it until I was working for a corporation, and I met my husband and decided to move to Florida during that time. So we've been together right at 10 years, married for right at 7 years. And we have decided to grow into our own practice. We started our own business. So I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. Even in high school, I used to sell rainbow vacuums. And still to this day, I don't understand how our parents let me out of the house with this expensive machine to go into strangers' homes and sell a vacuum at age 16, 17 years old. But man, I
Don't
made
forget
some
about the
money.
phone books too.
Oh, I totally forgot about the phone books.
The
I
phone book. You would find the weirdest jobs.
any
You would rub me into it.
anything I could do to not work a 9 to 5 was my MO. So there was this ad that said, "Come to this location, pick up these boxes of phone booths. I will give you a list and you deliver them. You bring the list back signed by all the people that have received them, and you'll get X amount of money." So I was like, okay, can't be that hard.
That's not sketchy at all.
Not that hard. So I made Cae'ly tag along with me, and oh man, some of the places we had to deliver phone books to, you were like, why do they even need a phone book? They don't even have a phone. They got a phone book though. Oh, I
Some
forgot about
sketchy
that one.
stuff.
Yeah, so I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. I love, like I said, I just love the way business works. So industrial organizational psych has been my kind of passion. And putting people first in business is my favorite thing to do is watching people succeed. So very similar to what you were doing as a teacher is seeing getting people in with their passion and watching their passion grow and watching their skill sets grow because of their passion. So that's kind of how we have built a culture in our own hospital, as well as I now help consult for other clinics throughout the nation on starting their own practice or fine tuning their culture to get more sustainable results with their practices. So, I look back and see all the stepping stones that I went through as a child in high school, in college, that have led me to where I'm at and continue to help me grow, not only as a person, but, as a business person. Um, so before cancer, my biggest focus, especially working in the corporate practice that we worked at, was just kind of climbing the ladder. I started off in the hospital as a practice manager. And then after a few years, I was put into like a leadership and development training program that allowed me to work with hospitals across the nation. We had about 2,000 hospitals at the time, and we had our own regions. And, I was able to work with my region and focus on helping leaders develop, writing training programs, traveling all over to deliver these training programs and help hospitals get stronger. So that was probably one of my favorite jobs because I got to have such an impact on the culture of these hospitals. The try to inspire leaders to be better for their own people was really cool. So when Michael and I met at a training session that I was doing, uh, we just found such a good passion working together and being good business partners and, just partners in life. And, we've been able to build a family. So we now have 2 kids. We have Emerson and Pierce, 6 years old and 7 years old. And they've become the love of our lives. We do pretty much everything together adventure wise. We go out and always try to find something new and exciting to do, especially living in Florida. We're just a few minutes away from the beach. And, we love to get outside and just make memories every day. So that's kind of my backstory and where I'm at. So, Cae'ly, how did you, especially early on, how were you balancing your career with your family? Because I know you were a younger mom when you had Clover and you were still teaching. So, how did you manage that part of it?
So, work-life balance as a mom and a teacher. The
Yeah.
first year, I was pregnant, so I didn't, have to worry about work-life balance. My husband would work later than me, but with coaching, we were getting home at the same time. Sometimes I would get home later.
Yeah.
I was always the first one out the door. But after Clover came along, I had to start cutting off the after school things for a while. So I did coach while she was little. She would come to the games and, but then when school started to kick in, I started to back off of the soccer. I would still do chess club and stuff because that was only like once a month, maybe. And I would spend more time at home, helping her with school and then Rowan with school. And most of parenting happened over the weekends because weeknights was just work, get home, do homework, get dinner and bath, and then bed. So it was a whirlwind of just work, school, homework, bath, bed. There was no human interaction on the weeknights. Weekends, we had some time, but it was very much a back to back. Just things were very busy. There was no
Yeah.
stopping until a holiday break. And then I felt like those holiday breaks were just a recovery period where I would go from I was on 24/7. I was being a teacher, you have a different persona and
Yeah.
you have to be on it. You have to be mindful of everything and present of everything. And then whenever I didn't have to teach, I was so drained that I would just come home and do nothing. And then the summers were a recovery period of just come home and do nothing. And it was such an unhealthy balance of work, 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 and then veg out, that there wasn't a balance at all for me, even as a mom. So the kids got a lot of mom's busy, mom's busy, mom's busy, and now she doesn't want to do anything. So that's
Yeah.
kind of like how I handled that balance, and it was not a healthy balance. So Carly, we kind of talked about work-life balance. Do you want to kind of just talk about how you stay motivated when things get tough, especially during a challenging phase in life?
Yeah. Whew. Where do we start? what challenging phase should we start at? This is pre-cancer, right? So
Pre-cancer. This is not everything before.
everything before. So, I think what a lot of people, especially in Florida, my Florida families, don't really think about or hear about me, because they don't talk about this part of life, is I was married prior to Michael, and I was married for about 5 years. We were high school sweethearts. And, I think that was probably, looking back at my most challenging phase before cancer, that was probably the hardest part that I had gone through at that time up until that point. And I think going through that prepared me for the drastic shift that life can take at any minute. So 1 minute you're married and you kind of have this road plan for you, get married, get a good job, have kids. And I think that instant halt in that relationship, it shocked me because, one, being from South Louisiana, like divorce wasn't an option, but it was the only option, right? And so you think about that part and how do you continue to move on, where one day it was just to go with the flow normal, and then the very next day it looked drastically different, my plan that I had for my life. And I had to learn to let go and just kind of go with where life was taking me. And I think that helped me when it came to cancer. And one day you're healthy, you seem fine. I never got sick when it came to cancer. It was all the meds that we were on, right? So the very
Mm-hmm.
next day, having that diagnosis, you're like, okay, guess life is changing again. So I think when I look back at life, that was probably one of the times that taught me the most and taught me actually who I was as a person the most, and how strong you really are when you have to be. So, that staying motivated during that time was not easy. It was trying to figure out your new norm, trying to figure out almost kind of like a new family, right? So your family dynamics shift, and it truly helped me do the same the very next time that I get, or the very time that I got diagnosed with cancer. It helped me figure out what that new norm looked like, and to also be able to accept that norms change, that your normal life as you know it will consistently change, and that you just kind of have to weave and flow wherever it takes you. So to stay motivated nowadays is easier because I have kids to think about. I have an amazing partner to think about, and that helps me stay motivated every single time I go through treatment, or something new comes up. I look at the kids and I'm like, okay, yep, I have 24 hours, do what I need to do, and then continue on with my life, because that gives me a little bit more control. So there was another question, Cae'ly, that I was thinking about, like when we think about like our diagnosis and even pre-cancer, we have to think about our partners, and our partners have been through so much during our journey.
Sometimes I feel like they have it worse just because they had to deal with everything on top of us.
Right? So how do you think you have supported Randy while still trying to maintain like your own career goals or your passions? Because that's always hard to do.
Randy is like super dad sometimes when I think about just everything going back. Now, this is pre-cancer, but cancer is where he really he stepped up, and, he didn't miss a beat. But pre-cancer Randy, like I said, when we got married, he had just finished serving in the military. He was in Iraq for a few years. So we actually spent a lot of time Skyping. So I would get to see him, and he was just in this tent, and there was just sand everywhere. And he would tell me all the adventures. He would go shopping in Kuwait and stuff like that. So fortunately, he was safe the whole time he was there. A couple scary things happened, but he came home and he's good. Basically, we talked every day while he was gone. The relationship was not easy, and there was a lot of rocky situations just because being away from each other for so long after high school. But when I'd fly out to go see him when he would be stationed in Washington, not in Kuwait. I wasn't going to Iraq to go see him. I'm sorry, I don't think I'd be allowed to. But he would be stationed in Washington, and I would go and visit with him, and I would do that, on my spring break in high school, because he was a year ahead of me. And he moved in with me when he was done with the military. I was just finishing up in college. And we got married right after, like, I graduated, and then a week later we got married. But he proposed to me a year ahead of time and everything, which was you actually had a big hand in the proposal. I know he reached out to you to ask for the creativeness.
Quite fun.
I appreciate that. That was really nice. But supporting him, he is a diesel mechanic, so his job is not really mentally draining, but it's physically draining. And he's not a very social creature. He's the opposite of me in every way, shape, and form. He's very quiet. He's to himself. And when he's done with the day, he clocks out. He couldn't tell you what he did that day. So his support for him just looks like making sure when he comes home, he doesn't really like to talk about work or anything that happened prior. We just spend the time talking about each other, talking about life. And he became morning parent, and I became evening parent. So he was gracious enough to, when I was teaching, he kind of had to get the kids where they needed to go because I was out of the house first. But I would take care of everything whenever we got home because I was home first. So he would do breakfast and I would do dinner, and it was a nice balance. And pretty much we have each other's backs for everything. I bully him into making his own doctor's appointments because he needs to do that. And I remind him to take his medicine because he forgets.
It's a third child.
He's a third child, but he's also a phenomenal dad as far as he had to end up taking care of the kids a lot post-diagnosis. So that's a story for another time. But he's my bestie, and he's my second half, and I kind of help him with everything. But how do you support Michael? Because I know he's a veterinarian, and he had to deal a lot with just getting out of vet school and student loans, and you guys topped a mountain of challenges together.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride with him. Like we have always been very clear in our dreams, and I think that's what makes us such good partners. Is that we open up about what we each want, and figure out how to help support each other in that journey. So yeah, he had a massive student loan that we worked so many jobs to try to kill and get rid of, and thankfully after 5 years we did. Um, we had a dream of opening a practice, and that was a mutual dream. It was together. So we got to work really hard together to get this opened. And we're trying to expand that practice into a larger facility currently. So that's been taking up a lot of our time. But, it is very difficult to maintain both dreams, his and ours, and try to figure out where that fits in, especially with the kids. So, um, we've each had to make sacrifices, but I think at the end of the day, we are both where we want to be in life, and um, it's cool to have that kind of partnership together. So I think just working together is super important, and it prepares you for anything that life can throw your way. So the cancer journey, we've had some fun stories with that. My favorite story is the day we got diagnosed, and I say we because it is a journey together. The day I got diagnosed, we were sitting in my doctor's office. My doctor had told me to come in, but she was in surgery that day, so we were waiting through a couple emergency surgeries she was going into. And I mean, I think the wait was about 2.5 hours in a room waiting. And to keep us from getting anxious or worried about what was going on, why she wanted to see us, we made a paper football and just started shooting it across the room. So if anybody would have walked into that exam room, we had field goals that we built while we were waiting. We had paper footballs. We had a blast. So we still have that paper football to this day. He kept it in his wallet for the longest time, but now we have it in our safe actually to just hold on to and just keep that memory whole. So, but like I think that leads into how we look at both the before and after. So, like when it comes to success, that to me is a success now, is how we have gracefully going through cancer. Was it easy? Absolutely not. Did
Mm-mm.
we have our rough patches through that? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had no eyebrows, I had no hair. I mean, I had to deal with my own physical shift, and how could somebody else find me attractive without those attributes? And so working together through that changes the way I view success. Before cancer, career success and life success looked drastically different. Like I said, I was trying to climb that corporate ladder and to just try to see how high I could go. As far as the kids, the success part just looked like making sure they stayed alive, making sure that they got to school on time, or making sure that they were dressed the way they should be. Now, I label success as, did we have a good day? Did we make memories? Yes, did they get to school? But most importantly, did they get to school happy? Did they get to school with a smile on their face, knowing that they're going to make memories with their friends? And it's not so much about the little things in life anymore. And I say little things like making sure you're on time every day, or making sure your hair was done a certain way. Now it's just, don't sweat the small stuff. And do they come home with the memories? And when you get to talk to them, do they openly talk to you? And those are the things that are so important. And at the end of the day, do Michael and I get to have some time that we get to reflect on the day together, and it's not just phones in our faces, or whatever that looks like. So what about you guys? How do you look at success differently now?
Like you said before, it was, are we professionally doing enough, and are the kids being successful academically and health wise? Now it's Randy and I make a point every night, no matter what's going on, to spend at least 20, 30 minutes together and just talk
Yeah.
about whatever. And we'll hide away from the kids and we'll just sit and visit and hang out. And then with the kids, every day a big rule is never let them go to bed getting fussed at, because kids do everything and they don't listen for anything. So we make sure to never have our last word said to them a negative thing. It's
Yeah.
always positive. Even if we had to correct them for something, we make sure we end it with something positive and loving, and they know number one priority is that they are loved and cared for. But that's the biggest priority, is that each person in this house has had time with each other in a positive way, and not just, like you said, ignoring each other for a cell phone.
Yeah.
There are no phones at the dinner table. We eat together every night, no matter how late it is. Like, the kids will have like an afternoon snack, but when dad gets home, we are at the table. We are
Yep.
sitting down for, we call it family dinner. And my son, every single time, why do we have to eat as a family? I don't understand. And I'm like, because this is family time, Rowan. We're going to have a family time. And then,
Happening, whether you like it or not,
we're
it's doing it.
doing this. And then, when we sit down and we eat, and we just have natural conversations, and they tell us about whatever's on their mind, and sometimes it's relevant to the day, and other stuff it's just completely off the wall, random. But we prioritize that family time over the success of anything else, because you know what, sometimes grades don't matter. It's more of emotionally and mentally, physically and mentally, how are you doing, and are we here for you? Do you know we're here for you? And one of my favorite things to do to the kids, and they hate when I do it, I'm like, hey, guess what? And they're like, you love me, Mom. Why do you say that every time? I was like, because you need to know. It's very important. You need to know. But they already know what I'm going to say at this point, and they're so fed up with me doing it. I was like, doesn't matter. You have to. It's important that you know that.
Yeah.
So, but that's been our shift in priority, pretty much, is we're less about the success of what people think success looks like, and
Yep.
it's more about, is my family in a great place, and are we good together?
Yep. Yeah. So, what if you could give yourself, your younger self, one piece of advice? What would that be?
So actually, the sign off, my signature in my emails is, be the person that you needed when you were younger.
That's pretty
And
cool.
so I think the advice that I would give myself is, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Whatever is happening, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna get through this, and you're stronger than you know. Because so many things have happened in my life, in your life, and our lives together, that if I would have seen all this, especially as a teen, struggling with depression before I was diagnosed with it, I would have given up so quickly. Just looking at the road ahead and looking at the road, on the other end of it, it's like, that wasn't so bad. I can't believe I did all that, but I did it, and look, I'm here. So
Yeah.
just, it's gonna be okay is what I would tell myself. What about you?
I think very similar. I think I would tell myself that there's going to be so many chapters in life, and each chapter comes with their own hardships. But if you let those hardships, I don't know, impact you in a positive way, then man, the sky's the limit, and you have so much potential. So I think I tell myself, just enjoy the ride. Don't sweat the small stuff, and enjoy every hard thing as much as you enjoy every success, because you can only get successes if you go through the hard times. So, definitely just enjoying the ride for sure. Um, I think that what we have learned from not just cancer, but like as we talked about, like we had so many other hardships with my divorce, or with your depression, and Randy being, overseas for so long. Like all of these things made us who we are as people, and I think have given us the tools that we need, resilience, just strength that we didn't know we had, to take on a journey like we've gone through with cancer. You with thyroid cancer and breast cancer, and then now my second bout of breast cancer. You're stronger than you know, for sure. Um, So we would love to open it up to you guys. And if you have any questions you want to ask us about our cancer journey or just about our lives or how we can help you, feel free to drop it in the comments below. And, we'll be sure to address them on our next episode.
Speaking of, next time we meet, we're actually going to talk about the bombshell that is the BRCA2 gene and kind of navigating genetics and fear and how to overcome all that.
Good old genes. Gotta have them.
Gotta love them. Genetics. All right, well, we'll see you guys next time. Thank y'all for tuning in with us, and stay strong and enjoy your coffee.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you just said that, Cae'ly.
Yeah, you can.